Good morning, dear colleagues, dear Mr. Vice Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, representative business, local government, local self-government. I am glad to welcome you at the 9th International Investment Business Forum, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficient Modernization of Industry. You know that for Ukraine, the word energy efficiency, renewable energy, it's not just slogan. These are decisive steps taken by President, by Parliament, and most important by business and local self-government that are engaged in this important work. Statistics shows that only starting from 2014, when talking about new projects launched only regarding renewable energy in heating, it's 650,000 new megawatts. 400 million euro additional investment in renewable energy and electricity. This additional 300 million euro investment, and this is only the beginning. According to European directives and the plan adopted by Ukraine in 2014, we must, until 2020, consume 11% of renewable energy. It's not the limit yet. This year, government adopted a new energy strategy. Our goal is 25% of renewable in 2035. And now we are, in fact, implementing this energy strategy. And the fact that we got together here, together with one of the leaders of the government responsible for energy efficiency, for renewable energy, with ambassadors with whom we signed memorandum on renewable energy, with all of you that support it and invest into this area. We shall discuss particular cases, particular examples. We shall demonstrate projects that are functioning, and we shall show you sources of funding. We are lacking sources of funding for projects that local government is ready to implement. Before inviting Vice Prime Minister Zubko to welcome and address, I want to show short video what is being done in Ukraine regarding renewable energy. This video was shot with the help of GIZ and government of Germany. Thank you. Please show it. So while they are preparing, we shall not waste time, and I shall say my welcome address. Dear colleagues, first of all, we must welcome a great team present here in this room. This is team of professionals present in the room, team of partners here on the stage, as well as those people who were practically engaged into such active cooperation. The government initiative, president, of the prime minister, who is supervising energy sector. But the main thing as our consumers, synonym of energy efficiency is energy independence and independence of all Ukraine. This is our goal, to make Ukraine, which is an effective consumer of energy resources, which is competitive, producing competitive products. Now, for 1 unit of GDP, energy consumption is highest in Europe, in Ukraine. We must use natural resource, natural potential that we have. These are our major tasks. What else I want to say? What has been done during this year? I think that was the breakthrough, because legislation was adopted, strategy was approved, the way where we must move to. It's not only energy strategy, but number of legislation adopted in Parliament. First of all, I want to say regulations regarding formation of effective consumer law on utility services was voted for in Parliament. We hope President will sign it. That will help us to develop responsible owner that has effective relations with service supplier. They demand fair price and fair service, fair quality. So what are we providing to consumer to reduce consumption of energy resources? When talking about reducing number or cost of tariff, it's impossible. It's the market who is establishing tariff. What we can reduce only amount of energy consumed and thus reduce the money that you pay. And we adopted the law on commercial accounting of energy in our country, not just write-off gas or other heats according to the norms. The law on energy efficiency of housing that will launch huge work of experts, specialists in this market. Our task is to set up pool of energy auditors, to certify them, to make associations, to make self-regulated organizations that will certify them, to launch certificates that will be later monitoring it, that will reduce consumption, to launch a web portal that will allow communication between consumer, energy auditor and energy producer, to launch energy efficiency fund. Now regulatory acts are being prepared on energy efficiency fund, law on commercial accounting. So all these laws are interrelated because they launch both services, both practical producer of service and help consumer to move in this direction. We want to have a clear roadmap what consumers should do to get not only financial support from the state or from international partners, but to get technical support as well. Because nowadays, technologies that will come to Ukraine, we believe that it will help us to reduce not by 50%, but maybe by 60% consumption of energy. As regards additional measures made this year, first of all, adoption of concept for reform of heat supply. We must look differently at the way how heat is produced, how heat is distributed, from the point of localization, automation of such heat, to look how we can engage alternative sources to produce heat. And we have additional possibilities. 90% of alternative sources at the level of gas. We can open market for alternative sources, for combined production. We may have a look how we can reform this sustainable system heat supply in the cities. Other important issues to resolve the problem with monopolies. Starting from 1st of January, at last, a resolution will come into force that we shall remove calculation between the state and heat supply. We remove this monopolist, Naftogaz. Now, state should pay directly for heat supplying companies, and that will open possibility for modernization, as well as open possibility for other actors to come to the market and to supply gas, first of all, for heat supply. This is a very important step. First of all, to monetize subsidy. Next step will be direct monetizing of consumer subsidy for households, and to bring back part of saved subsidies as investment in energy sector. I ask the market for modernizing housing sector or communal enterprise market is huge. We assess modernization market of housing about 30 billion euro. For enterprises, 20 billion euro. Where shall we take money to rely only on our international partners or international financial organizations? We must rely on them, but important is to look for money here, inside the country, where we use money non-efficiently, what money could be paid back to investment. 80 billion hryvnia for subsidies annually will be spent to support our consumers, to pay for utilities. Is it effective? Is it motivation for them to introduce energy efficiency? Of course not. For us, very important task is to save energy, to save consumption, And these freed remnants will come back as investment into efficiency. 80 billion is the money that could be saved minimum by 30% and brought back as investment. Then it will be easier to talk with our international partners. Then it will be easier to launch services, and most importantly, we clearly show that we become energy independent. Now, as regards industry, for us important is to use renewable energy that we have in Ukraine. Solar energy, wind energy, and production of energy from processed household wastes, when it's possible to produce gas. There's a huge potential of energy in the industrial complex which is not used. The task is how we shall implement production of gas and electricity into the network. The law on market of gas, law on market of electricity opens possibilities, but we should work more in order to conduct reforms and introduce tax changes in this area. What I want to say additionally, Ukraine is the only country in Europe that has biggest tariffs, green tariffs, that allow to engage investment. No country in EU don't have 15 cents or 16 cents tariff for production of solar energy. Like Chernobyl project, near Chernobyl, that allow to engage more than 2 gigawatts solar energy and install there the complex with network that will allow to generate this energy. I will tell you openly, I have reviewed possibilities of wind energy. Investment in wind energy are more effective and they repay back better than solar energy. Tariff is lower, but that allows to launch the process to define the areas where wind station could be built. That will make our production more independent, to say nothing about hydro energy and other possibilities. I want to come back to possibilities. What cooperation we have with our partners, international partners. That level of support of international partners didn't exist for previous 25 years. Recently there was a visit of Mario Shevchik, European Commission. Johannes Hahn visited a bit earlier, so they confirm again and again that they support us, no matter how much money they give us, grant support or technical aid or financial aid. Important is that they will support us in the course of 5 years. It's not question of money only, but technologies. What technologies we can engage within this time, how many specialists we can train Ukraine. This is a huge issue, how to train people. Our higher educational establishment train energy auditors. Do you have a self-regulating organization that will certify auditors? We don't have certified specialists who will certify future auditors. It's an interesting story when we have several associations of energy auditors, but unfortunately we don't have a single certified specialist. Huge area of work. We shall get support from EU within the next 5 years. We get financial support. It's not only the issue of support from EU, 100 million euro. Yesterday I had a meeting with representatives of German government discussing support of multi-donor fund 10 million euro, 20 million euro. It's not the question of million only. The question is what credit resource will come to Ukraine will finance it. Grant support is important. This is possibility of co-financing and motivation. What I'm pleased with that European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is discussing possibility of financing municipal sector, financing social facilities. Our banks start working actively. For the state-run banks, this is a big challenge. Practically, there's huge demand, but now they must think not only how to find resources, but resource which is competitive with EBRD and with European Investment Bank. Important is to engage IFC into this fund, International Financial Corporation, that will be not only the member of supervisory board and develop jointly the procedures, but will try to engage additional funds in this market. First time in Ukraine, through IFC, we got financing of Ashan project. At the expense of European partners, we got 400 million hryvnias for financing a particular project. What we want, that similar scheme is used to finance credits for energy efficiency. I can speak long time telling you more examples what has been done, but I will use one more minute to tell what we must do jointly. For me, important is that in this room we see the people who must start working tomorrow. For me, as representative of government, for all of us, for banks, for partners, important is to show roadmap. How to do, what to do, and when. What should be first step? What is the roadmap? What outcome we want to achieve? Therefore, what I think, it's not our last meeting. We shall have more meetings as soon as regulatory acts will be drafted. Now 30 regulatory acts are being prepared. Housing sector, accounting, energy efficiency of houses, etc. What is also important, to engage maximum number of experts to draft the law on energy efficiency. Directive 27, its most important one, it should be implemented as well. I want to emphasize once again the question that is important for us. Introduction of intellectual systems of governance. When talking about management, about counting, without efficient management, you can hardly provide heat or water supply or gas. Talking about energy efficiency, we want that smart grid system, intellectual systems are included in this legislation. Once again, I invite you to cooperation. I want to thank all our partners for huge layer work that we made together. I want to thank members of parliament who took a great part of work. Many draft laws, maybe 50% of draft laws, were elaborated by government and MPs. I want to thank head of Profile Committee Dombrovsky, Mr. Andreevsky, Alena Babakul, those who were actively working on that. Alexei Ryabchin was working together with us on those draft laws. Once again, I want to emphasize, we have a big team. It's not only one vice prime minister or head of energy efficiency agency or ambassadors. There's a big team of people and they produce results. But we want that efficiency of our work is implemented in particular facilities, houses, kindergartens, hospitals, modernized buildings. 18 billion cubic meters of gas spent annually by Ukraine for heating season, and those 80 billion hryvnia subsidies that we spend annually to pay for utilities should be reduced gradually all the time. And then we can say that laws are working effectively, team is working efficiently, and we have the future to be energy independent European country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Prime Minister. I think our video is ready. Let's look at this fragment, this teaser, which demonstrates what has been made by the government as of today. We have held a lot of tenders for each house, and we had more than 20 bidders for each house which wanted to supply services. It was rather difficult task for all this condominium to come to agreement with the neighbors. Those buildings, those condominium which managed to pass through this process, they had become stronger. We try to teach children and to raise up energy culture. We have to decrease CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. My dream is to fully decentralize energy supply sources in our city in order to cut down the energy consumption in our municipal buildings, in our households is very important, and also to diversify sources of supply. This will allow to make our city fully energy efficient. The cost of electric energy generated both in nuclear power plants and TTP's thermal power plants is considerably growing, but we know the consequences of Fukushima. Another factor, negative factor, is CO2 emissions. Renewable energy is allowed to prevent these negative factors. Today, renewable energy is the sector which has been getting the biggest number of investments in the world, because this is the sector which has proved that it is growing, and it has proved the low cost of new technologies. That's why when in Ukraine we look at development of solar, wind, or other renewable energies, we try to choose among the most high-tech technologies existent here. We have enough capacities, and the energy saving is considerable. Thank you. It's difficult to overestimate our cooperation with the United Nations organization in this area. Probably you know that UN is a leader in decreasing the CO2 emissions and energy-saving trend in the world. And I'm happy to welcome Mr. Neil Walker, coordinator of the UNIDA organization's cooperation with Ukraine, and UNIDA is contributing in growth of energy crop, and I'm
thank you
happy
very
to
much,
invite him.
Your Excellency Vice Prime Minister Zubko, Mr. Savchuk, distinguished participants on the panel, ladies and gentlemen. I began my career a long time ago as an expert in renewable energy in Latin America. It was a fantastic experience wandering the wilds of Latin America, measuring forests, rivers, sun, radiation, wind, in order to transform those renewable energy sources into energy. We organized for today a sunny day, just so that you would feel the real potential of solar energy. I'm sorry there's no windows for you to feel it as we speak, but this is what we were thinking. I am delighted to participate in this event today. This is the third year in a row that UNDP has been privileged to be a part of the forum. And as you know, renewable energy, actually the use of technologies that improve energy efficiencies, has been recognized as one of the principal objectives in the new Global Agenda 2030. Specifically, a sustainable development goal number 7 seeks to ensure access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy for all. Under this goal, there are 4 primary targets for Ukraine. First is to expand significantly the infrastructure and modernize networks for reliable and sustainable energy supply through the introduction of innovative technologies. Also, the second is to diversify primary energy sources. Third, to increase the share of renewable energies in the national energy balance. And in fact, Mr. Savchuk has mentioned the target of 25% by 2035, which is a really ambitious but really exciting objective. And finally is to improve the energy efficiency of the economy. Ukraine's energy sector offers so many opportunities. But let's be clear, this isn't only about energy savings or mitigation of climate change or about reduced pollution. Energy sector reform, especially renewables, also opens up huge business opportunities associated with the move to renewable energies. Truly, this area is a win-win-win for Ukraine. Recently, we have seen profound change in the Ukrainian energy sector. Vice Prime Minister Zubko has provided an excellent synopsis of all of these areas, and I would like to take this opportunity to really commend the government for the efforts that they have made in energy sector reform. I think where more can still be done, especially if we hope to achieve the target, 25% of Ukraine's energy supply is provided by renewables by 2035. If we want to achieve that objective, then it's clear more effort is needed to increase the use of renewable energy. I think UNDP in particular has been privileged to work in this area with the government of Ukraine, as well as other partners present here on the stage. I would mention in particular EU, Denmark, the IFC, and others, GEF, the Global Environmental Facility. We've been helping the central government as well as local authority in the development of modern energy strategies. On the ground, UNDP supports implementation of a wide range of initiatives in the area of efficient lighting, expansion of bioenergy technologies, and municipal energy management. Let me just give you one concrete example. An excellent way to promote renewable energy in Ukraine is through the promotion of agricultural biomass, which is an affordable, easy to grow, and eco-friendly fuel. But Ukraine is currently only using 2.5% of its biomass energy potential. UNDP, in partnership with the Global Environmental Facility, implements a project called Commercializing Bioenergy Technologies, and it has helped to develop new legislation that will allow or support the increased use of bioenergy. Now we are moving to support a commercial financing model for renewable energies. In close cooperation with the International Finance Corporation, IFC, we are partnering with Ukraine's largest bank, state-owned bank, Bank, to encourage commercial lending to municipalities for financing renewable energy and energy efficiency projects. I think, as most of you know, and in fact this was mentioned in some of the earlier discussions, the lack of financial resources is a critical obstacle. It's a major obstacle to achieving what we want to achieve, which is a shift from traditional energy supplies to renewable energy supplies. So this project will help Ukrainian banks move investments into renewable energy and into energy efficiency. And we are confident that these efforts, combined efforts, will significantly increase the scale of renewable energy use across Ukraine. So the work that the United Nations supports under leadership of the government and in partnership with key donors, banks, local authorities, and the private sector documents the economic viability of renewables. But as I said, generating a green economy isn't only healthy, it is a key factor in the assessment of the competitiveness of any national economy. And I think we all understand that Ukraine is working hard to become exactly a competitive national economy. And in the words of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, there is actually no trade-off between a healthy environment and a healthy economy, because now we can actually have both, we will have both. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. I would like to remind you that this year, during the visit of the President to Denmark, a memorandum on cooperation with Denmark was signed about cooperation in the renewables area, and we have His Excellency Ambassador of Denmark here, and we have a Danish fund, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Mr. Ruben Messer. And I would like to add that we have even stronger cooperation. Now we are thinking about involvement of one more Danish agency to the energy supply to the household sector. Mr. Messer maybe will mention this. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister Subko. Oh, sorry. Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Subko, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm indeed extremely honored not only to have been allowed to join the opening session of this very important international business conference on renewable energy and energy efficiency, but also to be have others mention the role of my little country, Denmark. We are happy to work with many others on this and happy to have a role, and therefore I would like to underplay our role, but I'm very pleased for the remarks we had, of course. Energy efficiency and renewable energy are of very high priority for the Danish government. I would say at home as well as abroad when we work with important partners like Ukraine. In Ukraine, we have had a very, very close cooperation the last couple of years with the government through Ukraine-Denmark Energy Center, which we formed together, and which has been the focal point of our cooperation in the energy field. We have this cooperation anchored in the Ministry of Energy, but we work very closely also with Mr. Savchuk's Agency for Energy Efficiency and Energy Savings, of course. So we have a broad cooperation there. I would just like to mention some of the things that we have put a lot of focus on, and that perhaps some of you might have seen as the cooperation has been ongoing. We have worked to have an improved website called UA Map, which targets investors in the renewable energy sector. Investors are extremely important in this sector, where the payback is so good that after very few years.
But we have very good tariffs.
I know. And we also made a statistical system to monitor energy efficiency for industry, for services, and for private households. We have had activities to raise the awareness in Ukraine about incentives to convert from gas to biomass, which of course is another stronghold that we work with you closely on. And we also work to have a new financial model for modernizing district heating systems. And ongoing energy planning is focusing on renewable energy and energy efficiency at the national and the regional level, of course. Today, during this business forum, colleagues from the Danish Energy Agency, DEA, will be present and will be sharing their great experience with you, because that perhaps is the most important thing we can offer Ukraine, is to share all the experience we have, and we do that happily and freely with you. There's nothing we do not share with our friend Ukraine on this. I'm pleased to inform you that yesterday the Danish government adopted a new program for what we call neighborhood assistance, which used to go to 7 countries. We are now reduced it to 2 countries, Ukraine and Georgia only. And of course, Ukraine will get the major bit of that. So it's now formally adopted, will be launched next week. But in that cooperation, we also are going to have what we call the UDEC 2, starting in January next year. So we will carry on the cooperation when you centered around this UDEC center we established together, and we will, in the new phase, cover the next 3 years, and the State Agency of Energy Efficiency and Energy Savings will remain our very close partner. I'm convinced that today's panel discussions will contribute to shedding new light on the important topics of renewable energy and energy efficiency in Ukraine, and I look forward to following the debate. I wish you the very best possible workshop together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to remind you that Ukraine has a very close cooperation with international financial institutions, specifically with the International Financial Corporation, which works under the auspice of the World Bank, and today it contributes to both energy efficiency projects, renewable sources projects, and cooperates with state banks like Ukrgazbank. I am pleased to invite Mr. Perlmar. I would like to add that this year IFC has been becoming a very important partner, because they are the manager of the Energy Efficiency Fund, and it will be our representative in another big coordination council on energy efficiency. Thus, our cooperation with the IFC, besides its consultative nature, has
Thank you very much, Vice Prime Minister,
features.
Mr. Savchuk, for inviting me. And actually, this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I think we heard from Neil just a bit earlier that infrastructure and renewable energy is where he got his start in his career, and similarly, renewable energy is where my background and expertise lies as well. So this is not only important for Ukraine, but I think it's important to all of us. Let me again wish everyone a good morning, and again a warm thank you to my fellow panelists and to everyone here in the room this morning. I think this event is meant to kickstart the conversation on how to bring more private sector investment into renewable energy in Ukraine. It's a theme that I think will be discussed more thoroughly throughout the day, and one where IFC is keen to support. And again, as Vice Prime Minister has said, it's not only renewable energy, but energy efficiency as well. IFC is playing an important role in mobilizing investment into Ukraine as private sector more broadly. We've invested a total of $3.2 billion into the Ukrainian economy over the past 25 years. And supporting climate-smart investment projects is the key pillar of our work globally. Global demand for modern renewable energy is expected to increase nearly 2.5 times by 2030. And over the past 12 years, IFC has provided advice and invested more than $18 billion globally in long-term financing for renewable power, energy efficiency, sustainable agriculture, green buildings, and private sector adaptations to climate change. This work is critical for Ukraine in particular, as we've heard again from our distinguished panelists, Vice Prime Minister. Ukraine knows better than most how important it is to diversify energy, and where possible deploy indigenous power rather than use foreign exchange to import. Reserves of coal or gas are diminishing resources. Solar, wind, other forms of renewable energy pose great opportunities if capital can be raised and risks overcome. IFC's role is to catalyze new investments and to create new markets and new opportunities. In Ukraine, we've supported energy efficiency modernization, both in the industrial and residential sectors via our advisory programs. In partnership with the Swiss government, we're implementing a 7-year advisory program focused on the residential sector, making multifamily houses more energy efficient and life for their residents more comfortable while helping cut their energy bills. And I'm also proud to be up here with a representative from Ukrgazbank. We're very proud of our partnership with Ukrgazbank. We're developing new territory for banks in Ukraine, and you'll hear later about the green lending, which is beginning at a very fundamental level. In the midterm, we're looking to do more in the renewable energy sector in Ukraine and to support more climate energy projects in different sectors of the economy with direct financing. Global energy markets are undergoing fast and continuous change. For example, solar photovoltaic costs have dropped 80% over the last decade. Wind power prices are down 50%. Wind turbine capacity factors have improved 30% over this same period. Over 170 countries have policy targets to encourage renewable deployment. This is also true for Ukraine. We've heard from the panelists that this is indeed the case in Ukraine, and these are ambitious targets. There are many investment opportunities to help the country meet its climate commitments, including renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate-smart agriculture. This potential is untapped largely in Ukraine. Our estimates show that Ukraine's climate-smart investment potential for selected sectors could reach $73 billion by 2030. And again, as we heard from the Vice Prime Minister earlier, where is this money going to come from? It can't just become coming from public sector, but we're going to need to mobilize significant resources from the donor community, from international financing partners, and the commercial banks. Ukraine has a strong industrial sector. Steep increases in natural gas prices put pressure on energy-intensive sectors, cement, steel production. Due to this high level of energy intensity and outdated technologies, Ukraine's potential for industrial energy efficiency measures is significant. It's estimated to be $2 billion by 2020. There is also strong potential for wind and solar. A lot of this work is underway. Ukraine has announced its plans to develop a solar energy park in Chernobyl. This, to me, is a very exciting development. You have the opportunity to turn the site for the world's worst civil nuclear disaster into a story of triumph and renewal. IFC is advocating for transitioning to competitive auctions. We have a feed-in tariff, and again, coming back to the words of the Vice Prime Minister, it is a very attractive feed-in tariff. That's not necessarily great for the country. There are opportunities to, in my view, lower the cost of renewable energy, and the solar auction is one such mechanism for doing so. By moving to auctions, countries have successfully drove down the price of clean power, reducing the burden on the state budget and decreasing end-user tariffs. IFC will be keen to support the process if Ukraine was to decide to proceed with the competitive auction model. The World Bank Group can offer a comprehensive package which includes advice, rapid tendering, template documents, competitive financing, and insurance and other credit enhancements. This solution can achieve operating solar projects in only 2 years, from project preparation through to financial close, construction, and commissioning. Developing renewables and new green economy could become a powerful driver for the country's sustained economic growth. Ukraine is at the start of this path, and we at IFC are placing a special emphasis on supporting this systemic change. We're ready to invest, to demonstrate the potential to other investors, pioneer new financial products, and bring in additional financial resources to Ukraine's renewable energy sector. I wish everyone a productive discussion throughout the course of today. Thank you very much.
I apologize. I have to leave, but what the head of the regional office, IFC, said was real very important. One should launch the work of the market, work of the auctions, new opportunities for alternative sources of energy. When was it? Last week, yes? 10.5 megawatt facility was launched in Slavutich. We had all the time that on the eve of heating season we had problems with payment for gas. Kotsybinsk, the boiler house that will switch to alternative sources, that cost 2 million hryvnias. But the debts that we had to pay, 2.7 million, one should think hard. One should switch to alternative sources of energy. It is possible. These are the examples that could be achieved jointly. I want to thank all our foreign partners, all our colleagues. Special word thank our Ukrhazbank, Mr. Kirilla Shevchenko, who broke the existing paradigm that now you cannot work with housing, residential housing. Everybody thought that either commercial credits should be taken to make credits in industrial center or to individual own. And now Ukrhazbank showed how effectively they work with condominium. Condominium are modernizing completely. First credits have been issued to them, 30 million hryvnias for full modernization of residential house. I think that this project will provide saving about 60%, and this is the most important thing. Practical example that we should demonstrate. That will not be only kickstart, but Mr. Palmer mentioned, but that will make more example that will increase exponentially. So Kirill, we shall continue cooperation with you, and I hope that next year this cooperation will be even more effective, because money from credits, from energy efficiency fund, from all sources will help to change residential housing energy supply. And then our companies that supply heat, water, they will be forced to get modernized, because according to the law on housing, they will not be able to transfer their cost to consumer. I want to thank you all. Thank you again, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you, esteemed Gennady Zubko. Despite having very tough schedule, you managed to take part in this meeting. Thank you. We shall continue. Ukraine and Switzerland are known by banking cooperation. Switzerland has a reliable banking system, but they have high percentage of use of renewable energies. And the Ambassador, Head of International Energy Affairs, Federal Office of Energy, Jean-Christophe Furg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Savchuk. Thank you very much for the invitation to this conference. It's a big privilege and a pleasure to be here. Since I will be having a presentation this afternoon, and in the sake of time, I'll be very short. I think I just wanted to make two remarks, picking up on the introductory speech by Vice Prime Minister Zubko. I think it was extremely important, at least in our view, that he highlighted the importance of training, especially of the auditors. Here I can assure you Switzerland has had about more than a generation of training experience, and we have learned it sometimes the hard way. We had, for instance, in the 1990s, we deployed a huge heat pump industry, which almost went broke because of a reputational problem, because the trained installers could not deliver the quality that the consumers expected. And we've been learning ever since. So I think it's very heartening to hear the Vice Prime Minister accentuate and put the emphasis on training, in this case auditors, but any sort of professional that has to do with renewable energy and energy efficiency. The other issue, which I think was very interesting to see highlighted in the small video, is the municipal energy. There was the mayor of Dolina who highlighted, or basically expressed his dream to see his city actually providing decentralized power by his citizens. And here Switzerland also has a very long tradition. As you know, we have a direct democracy. It took us, for instance, 5 years to develop a new energy strategy, which in the end was approved in a popular vote. But we also see that energy policy has to do a lot with grassroots democracy, that energy policy has to be endorsed by citizens at municipal level, and that is also why we have a program and actually a cooperation with 2 cities here in Ukraine, and I will tell you more about this afternoon. So looking forward to a very fruitful day today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fogg. An important support Ukraine has been gaining from the European delegation to Ukraine, and we have Mr. Torsten Waller today with us. He's team leader and Energy and Environment Support Group for Ukraine. I recollect when we started this warm credits program, and we discussed this program with him, and the European Commission supported us, and I'm very pleased to give the floor to Mr.
Thank you very much.
Torsten.
I'm very much impressed with the audience here, because I think we have seen a growing interest in this topic, dramatically growing interest, so that it looks a bit, like a pop concert where people are standing because there are not enough seats. I would like to stress just very briefly that we really have made a lot of progress over the last 3 years, and especially last year, on energy efficiency. We have also made progress on laying the foundations for a sound renewable energy system in Ukraine. And I will not repeat what has already been said, but I would like to stress that international cooperation and the available international experience is of key importance, because as, for instance, Switzerland, other countries have developed the system step by step by learning and doing, by making mistakes, by improving the system systematically over the last 30 years. And now we have some front runners, and Ukraine has the unique opportunity to really catch up and to, because of its size and because of its engineering base, to become part of the global trends. And the global trends are very encouraging for renewables. The cost figures have been mentioned. Cost is decreasing dramatically, so that new build wind power and even solar power is competitive in many regions, and including in southern regions in Ukraine, already with conventional power, as it is called in Ukraine. So thermal power plants, etc. So we also discussed the energy strategy, where it is absolutely clear that the development of the future energy systems in Ukraine will be based on energy efficiency and will also have a significant renewable energy component. What now is, and we have a very good starting point now. We have an electricity market law, there are feed-in tariffs. What is now needed to have a stability in the system, but not in the sense that it should be static, because we have seen it in the European Union. The market is very dynamic, the costs are going down, so the system needs to reflect this, otherwise you have unjustified profits in projects, and this will jeopardize new projects, because the overall cost will then not be fairly split between the new and the existing projects. And the international team that Mr. Zubko mentioned is available, including IFC, the European Union, Germany, I'm sure Denmark, etc., to help, and United Nations, World Bank. There's so much experience available how to design a sustainable support system for renewable energy, so that renewable energy sources become part of energy security of the country, that we would like to share. And what we really have experienced, and Mr. Savchuk mentioned it, we started some 3-4 years ago at a very small scale, and it was very difficult, because also the awareness of the government, the awareness of the country, including the media and the wider audience, was not there. Now I think this has changed dramatically. We started with the teple krediti, the warm loans. We are now on the launch of a national energy efficiency fund, which has really brought energy efficiency to a new level. And we hope that also on renewable energy we will come to such an international cooperation, and that the government will take a leading role, because we have seen it to start really when the government, Prime Minister Groisman and Vice Prime Minister Zubko took a lead, and they consolidated the efforts inside Ukraine, including of course the parliament, of course, all the, first of all, of course, the agency, but also the industry and the international partners. And I think such an effort, if we manage to set this up for renewables, we can really have an equally important step ahead next year on renewables. And what I really like is the quote of the Swiss ambassador, who said that in the end, the energy strategy was approved by popular vote. Bon, Ukraine doesn't have a basic democracy, but I think the Ukrainian population is voting for energy efficiency by using the available means to modernize. And I think this is very encouraging, and what I would like to see is that we can say this next year at our conference, that on renewables we see a similar development. Thank you.
Thank you. As Mr. Zubkov had said today, he expressed gratitude to Kirill Shevchenko, who is chairman of the board of the state-run bank, which shows example to all commercial banks how one should work in sphere of energy efficiency, which is very important to the topic of our today's discussion. They started crediting projects on renewable energy. These were first products. They were very risky. It was a new market for banking sector. Now Kirill Shevchenko will tell us more in the panel what Ukrgazbank is doing, but now he will say a few welcoming words. Thank you. Esteemed Mr. Samchuk, thank you for this invitation. Your Excellencies, colleagues, it's my great pleasure to be here at this event this time, because first of all here we have the people who are not just getting once a year, but people who are involved in real actions, people who are doing important things for our Ukraine. Very important, and I'm very pleased to see many familiar faces, many partners of our bank. Today we all are the people who are resolving problems. Even problems that we don't see yet today, but to some extent we are rescuing life in full meaning of this word. Quite recently in New York at the Climate Week, we, with colleagues from green banks from other countries of the world, were discussing some issues. I want to share some statistical data regarding global statistics. The fourth greatest risk in the world, pre-term deaths from contamination of the air. This is number 4 risk for health. Only starting from 2008, 20 million people were forcefully moved because of climate change. Unfortunately, what is the place of Ukraine in this statistic? According to the data of World Health Organization, Ukraine is number 1. I'm saying this regrettably, first place as regards morbidity, level of diseases caused by contamination of the air. We shall talk about renewable energy, about energy efficiency. What I want that we all should understand, we are not only making some economical things. Bankers know figures, results. We are doing such things that will help our children, our future generations, to breathe clean air and drink clean water. Our bank, being a financing bank, want to tell you what we are doing. Ukrgazbank has financed more than 250 million euro, exclusively project connected with renewable energy. Due to the project that Ukrgazbank implemented, now peak capacity is 332 megawatts. It means every 4th megawatt in our country is produced during the co-financing of Ukrgazbank. Now, I want to thank Vice Prime Minister Zubkov for nice words in my address, but it's due to cooperation with Energy Efficiency Agency, we are a leading bank providing credits for condominiums based on the program of energy efficiency. I want to add that all activities that we are doing, financing, energy efficiency, renewable energy, we have calculated what is the effect. A reduction of CO2 emission to the air, 725,000 tons. That is equivalent to saving 307 million cubic meters of gas. For me, it's a very simple example, and I'm pleased with that. The equivalent, well, of if 300,000 cars will not move in our streets. State-run Ukrsbank Bank is pleased to take part in such projects. We thank our partners, the World Bank, IFC, member of World Bank Group, with whom we are jointly implementing this project on green financing. But since we all here got together to discuss real business, real actions that we take, I propose to switch to business. And Ukrsbank is always ready to become your reliable partner in financing projects. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shevchenko. I would like to remind you that energy efficiency and renewable sources are the concerns and commitment, not just for the government, international donors, and financial institutions, but also this is a huge subject for civil society and public at large. And Ms. Ruslana Lizhechka is a famous singer, pop star, and she participated in many international fora, and she also has the very innovative household. Good morning, everybody. I understand that you should feel a bit tired at the end of such long session, but if you recollect the objective of our today's discussion, we definitely would appreciate all the interventions made by all the speakers, all reputable speakers today. But I'm very grateful to Mr. Savchuk for all he is doing in promotion of clean and green and renewable energy in Ukraine. I'm very grateful to Prime Minister Groisman. Recently, together with Prime Minister Groisman and Mr. Zubko, we visited Canada, where we discussed clean energy. Although Volodymyr Borisovich mentioned nuclear energy and renewables as clean energy, and while I am a big supporter of renewables, and I'm very happy to sit here today between Mr. Neil Walker and Mr. Jean-Christophe Fueg, and several years ago together we were on Maidan and mentioned that Ukraine is Europe. I would like to thank you for your attention to this issue of renewable energy, to energy efficiency, because our voice, each voice, the voice of each of you is very important. This should become new quality for our patriotic feelings to Ukraine. Our patriotic feelings to Ukraine should be transformed into specific energy efficiency projects. And I would like to remind you that November 22nd was the day when people went to Maidan several years ago. And today, clean energy should become our responsibility to Europe. We are not a country which could be manipulated with by those countries who are natural gas suppliers, that we can oppose all those attempts to manipulate with our country based on energy issues. And I'm dreaming about time when Ukraine will become fully energy independent. This will mean real independence for Ukraine. Actually, this will mean the full implementation of our Maidan aspirations. Energy independence includes also development of clean energy, green energy, full use of renewable resources. We should be responsible users of natural resources, water energy, solar energy, wind energy. These are huge sources of energy. Ukrainians are very close to nature, historically very close to nature. In all our folk songs and all our fairy tales, folk fairy tales, we have a big respect to nature. And I believe that we should continue this tradition of huge respect to nature, huge admiration and tribute paid to nature, and preserve it. Today we speak not just about economic efficiency, not just about attraction of investments, not just about development of the economy, but we should look more broadly at the issue. This is the issue of global environment, because CO2 emissions are important. I was a member of parliament back in 2006, and at that time Volodymyr Lanovy and other MPs were thinking about clean energy. And I come from a territory where we have Burштyn energy complex, and I know the issues and problems to the environment. I'm a big supporter of Carpathian woods protection, forest protection. I'm really big supporter of clean energy development, both in Ukraine and around the world. Everywhere where I speak in support of clean energy, I keep saying that Ukraine means energy. Ukraine has a huge energy potential. Here I mean both human energy and natural energy. Today I would like to announce 3 projects. One of them will start in 2018. It will be called Energy of Ukraine. We are going to organize a promo campaign all around the world, comprising a lot of shows, and to deliver these shows during 3 years, and to promote the idea of energy independence and to attract attention of potential investors to Ukrainian energy market. The second project which we have in our pipeline, this is the Chernobyl solar plant project. We have called this project the Sun of Chernobyl. When I travel around the world, quite often I listen to comments about Ukraine. I hear them from journalists, from politicians, from ordinary people, and quite often I hear Ukraine means Chernobyl. And that's it. But quite often I say to people, do you know what does the Sun of Chernobyl means? This is an attempt to turn this land of man-made disaster to the territory of clean solar energy. So I'm here to promote clean energy projects undertaken by our energy efficiency agency, by Mr. Savchuk. I am here to translate these efforts into language which is understandable for common people, and to explain how it's important to transfer to renewables in everyday life. Today we have good green tariff. This is an argument, strong argument in favor of green energy. So I encourage everybody personally to think about energy independence of our country.
Thank you, Ruslana. What I feel that you have charged us with your energy, with your renewable energy, and at all 3 next sessions we shall work very hard, and Ukraine will work on the project of renewable energy. I want to thank all the colleagues who are here in the Presidium, who are in the hall. Thank you for active communication, for exchanging most modern, most up-to-date information regarding development of green projects. I wish you all more inspiration, new achievements, new outcomes. Let us work together on renewable energy projects. Thank you, and I invite here participants of the next panel regarding investment attractiveness of renewable energy project, investors overview. My advisor, Dan Bilak, will moderate it. Thank you very much again for cooperation.